on the episode aspect. But
Yeah. So we're rolling right now, right? This is recording. This is officially the podcast. Yeah, because we're gonna do the room next door for this episode, but
yeah,
we saw it together with Jess, and then we briefly talked about it afterwards.
yeah,
But we haven't really talked about it a lot.
no, and I think we should do that going forward more, just because then it doesn't sound rehashed,
Yeah.
right, or like exhausted.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like coming in fresh.
Me too.
I like not knowing what you're gonna say, because then like if we talk about it right after the movie, then I feel like I'm not thinking about your thoughts. You know what I mean? Like your thoughts on the movie.
Yeah.
Because then I don't want to change my mind, right?
Exactly.
I feel like we should save that for here, because then maybe it's a chance for us to, discuss it more and change our minds here.
Totally. Yeah.
Right? Because then if you tell me like, oh, this is how I felt during that movie, and then I'll be like, oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I don't want to be influenced and then like be thinking about it for the however many days after.
Yeah, totally. And I like the authentic. I like coming here and then reacting in real time to our thoughts without really knowing. That's the issue with Letterboxd too. Is like I have such a habit where it's like hard for me not to log my movie right away, no matter what.
Yeah.
Because I like to keep track. But when we watched a Better Man, which we'll do another podcast on, I like logged that movie and then quickly logged another one right after to try to like hide it from you.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh,
I don't know if I've seen your Better Man one on Letterboxd.
really? Okay, well, I tried to hide it under another movie.
I don't know if I liked it or not. I can't remember.
Okay.
Usually I like all your Letterboxd.
I always like everyone's. Yeah.
I got a random like from someone.
That's always so rewarding.
It is. I was like, who the hell is that?
That's awesome.
So it was pretty cool.
On what review?
I'd have to check. I think it was the Better Man one.
Okay.
I'll double check, but it was
Nice.
one of those two.
Yeah.
It was like so and so liked your comment. I was like, ooh,
I love that.
cool. Someone from the outside world.
Yeah, I know. It's awesome. That's the best thing about Letterboxd is those rewarding likes from other people.
Yeah.
Or when someone follows you. That's always exciting.
Ooh.
That's hard,
I think
though.
I only have you and Connor, and I think is your aunt on Letterboxd?
Yeah.
I think she follows me. Maybe.
Yeah, okay. I think
Yeah.
she might. Yeah.
So 3 followers. That's not too bad.
Yeah.
Not too shabby.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I have like 13, but it's all like Connor, Dylan, all our friends.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I have one random person.
Oh, okay.
But I also don't want a bunch of random people that I'm following because I like to see what you guys are watching.
Yeah.
I don't want it like my to
don't
show
want-
what your friends are watching.
Yeah.
It to be filled up with like random people. I don't even know.
Then you have to kind of go scroll through it and see what we watched recently or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Before we get started on the movie, though, I wanted to ask you a question here.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
as you know, or
All
you
right.
may not know, the Oscar nominations
Okay.
have come out.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's one kind of category that I wanted to ask you about because I think you've seen them all but one.
Like categories?
For this category, I think you've seen all movies but one of them.
Okay.
So it's the best animated feature film. I think the only one you haven't seen is Wallace and Gromit, Vengeful Most Foul.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't
Or
seen that
Vengeance
one.
Most Foul. So the other ones are Flow, Inside Out 2,
Yeah.
Memoir of a Snail,
Okay.
and The Wild Robot.
The Wild Robot.
Yeah,
Okay.
What's your pick?
Now, did they announce a winner?
No, the Oscars aren't until like the first Sunday of March or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not really like versed in like the Oscars and stuff.
Yeah, it's all
So
right. It's
Wild
bullshit.
Robot, Memoir of a Snail, Inside Out 2, and
Flow. There is Wallace and Gromit, but of course, yeah, you haven't seen
I haven't
it,
seen
so-
Wallace and Gromit. Okay. So those are the 5.
Yes. So you've seen most of them, so I was just curious which one you think should win.
Which do I think should win? Now, I feel like we got to kind of consider, like, now it's just best animated movie.
Yeah.
Like, what are they kind of going off? Do they kind of give, like, criteria for it, or is it just, like, the style of animation and, like, the story or
Just
something?
whichever movie you like was the best of the movies,
I would...
Like, obviously, animation style will play a part in it. It's like the whole
It's, yeah, it's so, like, difficult to say, because I feel like if you're going based off animation style, I guess I have to go off which pleased me more.
Exactly.
I would probably Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail,
Yeah.
Wild Robot, and
Flow.
Flow. I would probably keep Inside Out 2 out,
Okay.
right? So in my ranking right now, that's number 4. Wild Robot would probably be 3.
That's fair. All right.
I think I would probably put Memoir of a Snail at 2.
Damn.
And then Flow at 1.
Really? Okay.
Now, I only put Flow at 1 because we just talked about that. I watched it. Me and Jess did. And just the animation style, I think, was very like reminiscent of like sort of vintage, not vintage, but it just had like such a different feel to it. Like it wasn't trying to be like most animation movies where they're like kind of realistic.
Yeah, totally.
You know, they're super polished. I think that was like the thing that this one had going for it. It had like a little bit of a charm to it.
Yeah, yeah.
So it wasn't super like sharp or clean. Like it was smooth, but it was a little rough around the edges.
Oh yeah, I feel like I could tell.
And I think like you can tell in some of the animation, it's like when the water is like coming over some of like the land or whatever, it's like it's kind of clipping through the land. Like,
really?
It doesn't like feel like it's like washing up and then it like kind of comes down.
Yeah.
It just kind of like just goes through the land.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. Like I kind of like that because I mean, you see that in like a lot of like video games and stuff. It's like, it's not perfect.
Oh yeah,
like,
for sure. Yeah.
It doesn't like, it's not like a big factor. I don't know.
Yeah.
It like, that's the thing I liked about it. It was a little rough around the edges, but it was very like appealing still.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It had like that sort of like cool art style, I guess. I don't know. It's just different from the others. So.
Yeah.
That's what I liked about
Which
it.
I need to see, and it's like, so I'm glad the animation style worked for you, because I feel like for some people it might not work. They might be like, oh, it looks like a video game or something, which is like a complaint I heard.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's the wild robot we wanted, where it's no talking, just animals kind of running around.
We just looked it up afterwards, and they said that all the animal noises were like naturally recorded from the animals.
Yeah.
I think except the capybara.
Okay.
They used like a camel noise for.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But the rest is real animals?
Real animals, like dogs, cats, all that stuff.
Wow, that's crazy.
Birds, whatever. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't expect anything less. Like I wouldn't expect like friggin' some guy in the audio booth going "Roo, roo, roo," or like
or like AI generated animal noises.
Yeah, so it's cool that they like went to a place and like recorded like a dog barking or making all these noises, right?
Yeah,
so,
it is interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
Well, so you're going with Flow. That's crazy.
I'll go with Flow, and I haven't seen Wallace and Gromit, but that's what I'll go with right now. Memoir of a Snail was really good.
Yeah.
I think that was also really unique just because like kind of how you put it, it's like also imperfect.
Oh yeah,
right?
totally.
It's not super polished like what like
a
lot of stop motions movies would be. I think that's the nice thing is like these characters had personality and different characteristics to them, like
definitely,
you know what I mean, like
and the movie definitely has like its own style, you know, and everything. I kind of wanted Memoir of a Snail to be nominated for Best Picture, but I guess I don't know if animated movies can be. I feel like there was only one time where that was a case, and it was like Beauty and the Beast or something.
Oh really?
Where it was nominated for Best Picture, but it's like I don't know, I haven't looked at all the nominations, but I find they're pretty underwhelming this year. It's like, oh god, I don't keep up with that stuff, right? So I think some of these movies I'm like, I haven't even seen that. Oh, so. Yeah. There's like, there's lots.
Yeah.
But I remember like, I think it was like whatever year Avatar came out, I think there's like 12 Best Picture nominations. Wow. I think this year is a little more dialed down. Like it might be like 8 or something.
Wow.
But even Avatar being on that Best Picture was concerning.
Really?
Avatar 2?
Oh, Avatar 2.
That's the one I meant. Sorry.
I thought you meant that first
Way
Avatar.
of the Water, whatever the hell it's called.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. What's up, bro?
Yeah. That was a little weird.
Yeah. But we should also mention we were drinking out of Chicken Track mugs.
Yeah.
Which if you're listening to the podcast, you won't be able to see them. But if you're watching it on YouTube,
you can maybe see it. It's a little out of focus, but yeah.
Once we're big enough, we'll be selling merch. You know, we'll be selling these mugs. $37 a pop.
$37. Wow.
Nah.
Damn.
15.
50 if it's autographed.
Yeah. And we're just gonna like sign one of them and then just print the autograph. The rest. Screw signing more than one.
I don't want carpal tunnel.
But it's nice. We're drinking out of a real mug now.
I know.
Not a big Tim Hortons cup.
No water bottles.
No. So even though, where's my water? I should have been more organized because I'm gonna get thirsty.
I think it's over there.
Across the room. Can I reach?
Oh.
Dun,
you got it.
All right.
Nice.
Cool. All right. Well,
should we get on it?
I guess we should get on it. Yeah.
The room next door.
The room next door.
Okay. How should we start this? How is this gonna go?
Well,
I think should we talk about it separately? Like, if you talk about how you felt about it, I talk about how I felt about it, or should we kind of go back and forth on this?
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not something we have to really go through the plot for because it's like the easiest plot ever.
Yeah.
So basically, it came out 2024. It's directed by Pedro Almodovar, who's like a Spanish director. He's directed I think this is like his 23rd movie, something like that. It's his first English language movie, which I think will come into play later with what we talk about.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's very has a style. I feel like all of his movies kind of look the same,
Right.
and have similar themes. And I've actually only seen one, and it was called All About My Mother, and I don't remember fully loving it. But he has a million that I want to watch. He does some thrillers, all this weird stuff, But he clearly has themes that he likes.
Yeah.
And then so basically, this is his newest movie. Stars Tilda Swinton.
Yeah.
Is that her name?
Tilda Swinton.
And Julianne Moore.
Julianne Moore. Yeah.
And the plot is basic. It's basically about two friends who knew each other earlier in life, who wrote at a same magazine.
Yeah.
The one became a war correspondent. The other one became a author. And she kind of writes auto fiction stuff, fictionalized stuff about her life or someone else's life. And they kind of move apart throughout life. And then Julianne Moore's character, who became the author, is at a book signing, and she sees a friend there, and that friend tells her that Tilda Swinton is in the hospital and has cancer, and she's basically going to die. So Julianne Moore goes to visit her. They kind of talk about life. Then Tilda Swinton makes her a proposition to basically, Tilda Swinton wants to die with dignity rather than die of cancer. So she wants to take a suicide pill at an Airbnb and die, but she wants a friend in the room next door, and she wants that friend to be Julianne Moore.
Right.
That's the plot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had wildly different takes on this one.
Yeah.
I loved it to the point that I think it's my second favorite movie of the year. I think it goes Memoir of a Snail and then The Room Next Door.
I'll agree with number one.
Okay.
Ooh. Now everyone's entitled to their opinion, so I'm not bashing anyone that likes this movie a lot.
Oh, for sure.
I did not feel the same way about it. So I think it's crazy. So when we left the movie, I think the only thing we really discussed was I think I first said that movie was boring as hell.
Yeah.
Jess felt the same way.
Yes, Jess didn't like it.
Now
either.
this is the first words that we said to each other right after the movie. We didn't discuss during the movie or anything.
Oh no.
And then you came out and said, I love that movie.
Yeah.
And I was appalled. I was amazed. I was like, what? Anyways, so yeah, I'm on the totally different end of the spectrum when it comes to how I feel about this movie.
Yeah. And I feel like we kind of think the same about a few things in the movie though.
Yeah.
So Julianne Moore visits Tilda Swinton at the hospital, and then Tilda Swinton kind of relays parts of her life to her. Talks about Tilda Swinton has a daughter who's kind of estranged from her, and she tells Julianne Moore why the daughter's estranged. And apparently she had a husband or a boyfriend who went off to Vietnam, came back, and he was all messed up in the head, man. So she basically had sex with him because she felt bad for him.
Yeah.
And she got pregnant.
Yeah.
And then the husband went away for a job, and she didn't want to put the pressure on, not the husband, but of her boyfriend, because he came back from the war, he's all messed up, and she didn't want to put the pressure on him of raising a kid now. So she chooses to raise the kid alone, and doesn't tell her daughter about the dad. And for some reason that's caused a rift between her and her daughter.
Yeah.
And the daughter doesn't want to talk to her anymore. So there's some flashback sequences of Tilda Swinton talking to Julianne Moore that are rough.
Oh, they're so rough.
They're pretty rough.
I didn't know what movie we were really watching when those kind of came on. I was like, what? This is such a total opposite of what we were just kind of seeing with Tilda Swinton and Julianne Moore on the screen. And then this happens, and it's like, okay, there must have been a co-director that did these scenes. It doesn't feel like it fits. It feels like it's a totally different movie.
It does feel like it's a different movie. And it comes off as corny.
Oh, yeah.
The boyfriend who doesn't look good. Just I don't like his face on the screen.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the 60s.
Yeah.
He goes out to Vietnam. He comes back and he's sitting on the couch with the young Tilda Swinton. He's like,
Yeah.
I still got the war in my head, man. And you
Yeah.
like hear like helicopters and
He was
stuff.
really torn up about it. He
Yeah.
was really torn up. He was just like you feel like with someone, I mean, I can't say this for sure, but like someone with PTSD, you feel like that they like would be freaking out a little bit more instead of him going, there's a war inside my head.
Yeah, and it was
like,
just cheesy line.
Yeah.
Like
he
I still
seemed
got
pretty
the
he seemed pretty okay with
He
it.
didn't seem that bad. He had like a little scar on his forehead or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like it was really corny, and
Yeah.
it caught me off guard because I was like, "Whoa, what the hell's happening here?"
Yeah, yeah.
And then I'm like, "Oh no, is this gonna be the whole movie?" Tilda Swinton relaying parts of her life to Julianne Moore, with these awful flashbacks.
Yeah.
That are very corny.
The girl who played the very young Tilda Swinton was not very good either.
yeah,
I'd
I know.
say
She was.
my first comment was I didn't know that Lisa from The Room was in this movie.
Yeah,
Because she looks identical.
Yeah.
But she's also a bad actor.
yes. Which is funny that you mentioned The Room because I was reading reviews of people who didn't like the movie.
Yeah.
And people weren't calling it The Room Next Door. They were calling it The Room.
Oh boy.
I know. They were like, because the dialogue, which we'll get into.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, then there's another flashback. There's two more flashbacks of Tilda Swinton talking to Julianne Moore. So she's telling a story about her being in Baghdad as a war correspondent. And the flashback, Tilda Swinton looks so crazy. She has like a burqa on her head.
It's something like that, or like what's it called? Like a hijab.
Like a
kind of
hijab,
thing,
yeah.
like a head covering, headdress.
Yes. And she's driving in Baghdad, but it's like clearly like the back lot of somewhere.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, this is not Baghdad. She looks crazy because they're
Yeah.
trying to make her look younger too.
Yeah.
And that one, I was a little confused with the purpose of that, other than to tell us that she's a war correspondent. And then she's with a journalist who meets a friend who is like kind of like part of a church there. He's like a priest of some sort.
Yeah.
And you find out that the journalist and this priest were like gay lovers in the past. And that's kind of like what all you learn from that scene.
That like I didn't really get much out of that that whole scene other than like she got to know the one guy a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like it was like, oh, how did you know him? Oh, we've spent some time together or
Yes.
whatever. And I'm glad he's happy now with the other guy. I can't remember his name. And it's just like they show up. She asks him a question about like I think it's like isn't it like a refuge or something like that? Or
Yeah.
is it a church?
I had to look it up, so because
Yeah.
I was a little confused. So he's like almost like part of like the Catholic Church, but I think it's like a refuge type area,
like
or
a
something.
safe area. Kind
Safe
of thing.
area, yeah.
So it's like she goes, so how long have you been here? Blah, 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 or whatever she says. And it's like the 3 fastest interview questions ever. And then she's like, okay, see you later.
I know.
So
So
I'm
I'm
like-
like back on a plane home.
Yeah, it just felt like that scene didn't really matter to me. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, what did I get out of it? She got to know this one guy was he a photographer, I think?
Yeah.
A little bit more.
Yeah, and that's what I was
Right.
confused about because I'm thinking about the movie a lot and trying to piece it together, and I'm like, I'm a little confused about what they were telling me at that part.
Yeah.
I will say the guy playing like the priest guy in Baghdad, before you found out he was gay, I was like, this guy's reading is pretty gay.
Yeah.
And then he's gay, so,
Yeah.
but it's not like over the top or anything. But
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the show like Tilda Swinton just being like super accepting of the fact that her co-partner and the photographer is
Yeah.
gay because she's kind of just like starts talking to him about sex, and they also talk about sex a lot in this movie.
Yeah, a lot.
And about how sex is used to like block out bad thoughts.
Yeah.
So I think the conversation that she has with the journalist on the plane is they're talking about like how you have sex to forget about things like within the war zone and how you
Right.
use sex as like a coping mechanism, I guess.
Yeah.
So that was a little confusing. And then there's a third flashback, which was probably the worst one, which was it turns out Tilda Swinton's ex-lover, who's the father of her child, died.
Yeah.
So he remarried to some like Spanish girl.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like there's a couple random Spanish people in this movie.
This is before the war correspondent part.
Okay,
right? Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Okay, yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I feel like the order anyways, it's just like, it
doesn't
doesn't
really
matter. But I feel like because it's a Spanish director, he threw in a bunch of Spanish actors for no reason. So like the husband's married some Spanish lady.
Yeah.
And they're driving down the street in the country in this flashback. And the ex-boyfriend who went off to the war sees a house burning down.
Yeah.
So he instantly goes into like war mode.
Yeah.
Like you hear helicopters.
Yeah. Where's that building's on? There's smoke over there.
Yeah, and
What
he's
is
like,
that?
people need help. So he runs out of the car and he tells his wife that he can hear people screaming in the house.
Yeah.
But there's no one screaming in there.
Yeah.
And the wife's like, there's no one. rough acting.
Very rough.
Yeah, this lady was like, I could visibly see her stumbling over her lines. Like she was like struggling to get her lines out.
Yeah.
I don't know what was up with that. So the husband goes, "There's people screaming in there."
You don't hear that? You don't hear that?
Yeah. So she like goes to run and stop him. She fumbles on the ground, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
He runs into the fire. Cut to like fire trucks there, and they're like pulling his body out.
Yeah.
And you see the woman he married kind of like freaking out to the fire department.
Yeah.
Everyone's acting is really rough.
She also seemed really torn up about him being dead.
Yes.
Yeah. She was not distressed at all.
No, I know. And the fireman's acting was rough. And she was just telling him, they heard people screaming in there. You heard people screaming. They're like, there's no one in there, except for your husband. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you find out that the husband died. Mm-hmm. But there was some interesting stuff with that scene that I liked, because later you find out that Tilda Swinton's daughter wrote to the widow who was there when the fire burned down the house.
Yeah.
And she said that like her dad heard her, as in the daughter, screaming inside the house.
Yeah.
These weird little details that I liked. But yeah, the flashbacks at the beginning of the movie, and they were rough.
Very rough. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I was like, what? Like that. Yeah. The Spanish lady's acting was just so out there and it's so rough. Just like, man, oh man, I can't get into this. Now, I think it was kind of after the flashbacks, were maybe about just under halfway of the movie. And I was like, I can't stay awake. I almost fell asleep legitimately.
Really?
Like I was sitting there and I could feel my eyes, like, how like they're kind of going back in their head or whatever. They're like kind of crossing. I was like, I got to stay awake.
Really?
I feel like I can't fall asleep.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah. And then it's for the podcast, man.
It's for the podcast.
just like making it up.
Yeah. So when did the guns come into play?
Yeah.
But I just couldn't resonate with this. So like the flashbacks took me out of it. I can get on board with the story, but it's just, I think it's how it was delivered and structured is like just what like made me bored, and just I didn't feel connected to it in a way, right? So,
I feel like the dialogue. What I've heard a lot of people who dislike the movie say is that the dialogue felt very like fake and awkward.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if like, again, I really warmed up to it and I stopped even noticing the dialogue, and I kind of like the way they were speaking. Like it's not realistic. They're very like to the point and but I'm wondering if it was like written in Spanish and then translated to English.
Yeah.
And like the translation, some stuff got fumbled up in there, and like
I was reading some reviews on Letterboxd to kind of going over it a little bit. And one person kind of brought that up is like, I think this would have performed a lot better if it was all Spanish.
Yeah, which
right?
is what he normally does,
Yeah. And like, I can see that, like, if he is like a Spanish man, and if he writes all like Spanish movies, right? So it's like, if it's his first time directing and writing like a movie meant in English, I can see how it gets a little bit rough around the edges and like its dialogue.
Yeah.
But like if this movie was done in Spanish, it might have played out a little bit better in terms of like how it's spoken on the screen,
totally,
how it flows a little bit, right? But that's just like a language barrier kind of thing.
Yeah.
That, when he's directing it, it was like kind of lost in translation a little bit.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I really got used to it. But I understand. I don't even know how to describe the dialogue, but it's very pointed, and I don't know. The only way I can explain it is kind of exists above the subject matter. Like it's very like pointed, and they kind of speak in riddles almost sometimes. It's either like riddly. It's very like bookish. Very bookish. So, I mean, that's a problem a lot of people, and that's why people are comparing it to The Room. They're like, the dialogue is so... People are calling it like the poorest dialogue ever, which I disagree, but...
I can see where they're coming from. I think it is just like because me and Jess both felt the same way about it. It was just like, man, it just didn't feel like a natural conversation.
Totally, yeah.
Like, how, like, if you're talking to someone, maybe sometimes there's like that brief pause, like you kind of have to think about what you're going to say.
Yeah.
But... it doesn't flow naturally. Like they are very like stagnant in like their emotion. I find with like how they're purveying some of the things that they're saying. You know,
Yes.
I can't recall like some of the lines, but it's just like it's so like flatlined.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like give me a little bit more emotion. Like, you know, when you're talking to someone, you might like add a couple more like
Highs and
notes in your
lows.
highs and lows, or
Yeah.
a little more emphasis on some things. But like this one was like, I'm lying in bed and I am dying.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's very much like that. Like, I am lying in bed.
yeah.
Yeah. Totally. I understand. Like that. You kind of like that sounded like perfectly what the movie's
and
like.
like Julianne Moore's like, I'm trying to recall like just an example of something that she says where it's like, oh, okay, so, you know, Tilda Swinton, she'd be like kind of recalling things, or she'd be like, just when you find me, don't cry, or something like that.
Yeah,
And she's
yeah.
like, and Julianne Moore's like, stop saying that. Anyways, let's go get coffee. And it's like, you know, give me a little bit more drama. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
I want Julianne Moore to freak out or something. Like, she's had enough of like all this depressing talk.
Yeah.
She's clearly like, I think the one thing in her book that she mentions in the beginning is, I think she like writes about death and
Yeah,
like
and herself and how she's scared of death.
scared of death,
Like super scared
right.
of death.
So I want to see more of that. I want to see, you know, she agrees to do this thing for Tilda Swinton as a friend, but then, you know, it's like maybe she breaks down. She can't handle it anymore. She thought she could, but like all this talk of like Tilda Swinton, the thought of Tilda Swinton lying there dead and having to find her the next morning.
Yeah.
It just causes her to break down and like stop talking, like
Totally.
freaking out or something.
Yeah.
I wanted something like that. I want a little bit more drama,
Yeah.
even though they're great friends or whatever, which the movie doesn't really allude to, other than
Yeah.
that they worked together.
And then, like they were great friends, but even like so, Tilda Swinton is going to rent out an Airbnb for a month, and she's going to go there with Julianne Moore, and Julianne Moore, there's a room next door to where Tilda Swinton's sleeping, but Julianne Moore doesn't want it because it's too small.
Too small.
So she goes downstairs.
Yeah.
And basically Tilda Swinton tells her that the morning you wake up and you see my door close, and it's like this big red door, you'll know I've killed myself.
Yeah.
And then, you know, call my daughter and
Yeah.
call the police and everything like
Here's
that.
what you're gonna say.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like there's a tension there, but it's like also Julianne Moore starts to become comfortable with the days where she's like when she's not killing herself, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like, kind of told that they were friends, but they aren't the greatest friends now. And then Julianne Moore is even like, haven't you asked any of like your close friends?
Yeah.
And then she said she did ask them, but they all said no.
So all said no. Yeah.
Because like this is in the States and it's illegal to do like assisted suicide.
Yeah.
So first off, it's morbid to be there with someone who dies, and then second of all, you're gonna get into legal trouble.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
people are gonna think you knew.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So there's like, I guess, should I just go into some things I liked?
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure.
Okay, number one is the music. I think is probably my favorite soundtrack of this year.
Wow.
It's very Spanish.
Okay.
And it also like adds weird mystery to the whole movie. You know, it's like Tilda Swinton's gonna kill herself, so it's morbid, but it's also supposed to be like the power of choice. Like she is taking the power into her own hands to decide what she's gonna do with herself. So there's like some power there, but the movie still doesn't shy away from like making it seem a little morbid and mysterious, and that's like with the soundtrack.
Yeah.
So I love the soundtrack. I think it drove the movie, and it made it a little mysterious to me. Like very like I've heard people say it, and I didn't connect to it, but now I understand what they're saying. Like very Hitchcock, the music, especially scenes where Julianne Moore wakes up in the morning and she goes to look at the door, and she like walks up the staircase, and there's this corner shot of the door. Very like Hitchcock kind of vibe. So I like the mystery. I really like the acting, which is crazy.
Okay. Okay.
I thought the acting was really good from Julianne Moore and Tilda Swinton.
Okay.
But again, it exists within this weird realm. It's like not realistic. If you're looking for like
Right.
realistic performances,
Yeah.
it's not there. I would
Right.
say Tilda Swinton had a few moments where that felt a little off to me.
Okay.
Like when she finds out because she originally was grappling with the choice of to go through therapy, like chemotherapy, or not. So she decided to do it, and then she finds out it's not working, and she's gonna die. And she's going, hey, why don't, like, I just can't, you know, she's kind of freaking out.
Yeah.
That was pretty rough, I thought.
Yeah.
You kind of felt a little different about the acting, right?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I just felt everything was so stiff. Like again, like it's just I needed a little bit more emotion to it, right? Like it's just so no emotion, no life to it.
Yeah. It is. Yeah.
I feel like I need that. Because
Keep talking.
I don't know, these, like, that's what you kind of expect from like actors, right? Especially Julianne Moore. Like, I feel like she's got such like a big resume
Yeah.
that, you know, like, she should be doing this a little bit better. Like, I didn't feel connected to any of the characters.
Yeah.
I think the only one that I kind of felt a little bit like, you know, this fits a little bit more. Like, I feel like the guy is doing a pretty good job at his small part.
Yeah.
Was the cop.
I like the cop.
I feel like it was like, I was like, okay, this is getting tense now. Like,
Yeah.
he's grilling Julianne Moore
Yeah.
a little bit more.
Yeah, because like the end of the movie, obviously, like spoilers, but you know, we're gonna spoil the whole movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously, you know what's gonna happen. Tilda
Yeah.
Swinton ends up taking the pill and dying. So
Yeah.
then Julianne Moore has to like phone the police, and then there's a good interrogation scene
Yeah.
that I really liked.
I think that was fine. I think that was probably like my favorite scene of the whole movie.
Yeah.
Just because I was like, okay, like, you know, this is getting tense. You know, this is something that she was promised she wouldn't get roped into, right?
Yes.
Because essentially Tilda Swinton writes a letter to the police explaining everything, and then a letter to Julianne Moore's character. And then, you know, she's like, I will explain everything to the police in a letter. You don't have to worry. You just say this.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, she still says all this in the interrogation. The cop just does not buy
Doesn't
it.
buy it. Yeah.
Right? So he's obviously interrogating her that she knew about it.
Yeah.
And she let it happen.
Yeah, because it's interesting because he's like interrogating her, and she's so confident because she
Yeah.
has everything planned out, and then he's like, "Well, we talked to Tilda Swinton's character's other friends,
Yeah.
and they all denied knowing anything except for one
Yeah.
who said that she was asked to come to an Airbnb to help her friend kill herself.
Yeah.
And then the cop makes it known that he's very religious.
Very, like a radical, not radical, but like, yeah, very religious.
Yeah, and he takes offense to what Tilda Swinton did in killing herself.
Yeah.
So he feels like responsible for figuring it out.
Yeah.
Because he thinks what she did was wrong, which I think is a really important idea for the entire movie.
Yeah.
Which is like, yeah, power of choice, and how, you know, if anyone has ownership over anything, it's your own body and your
Yeah.
own soul, you know?
Yeah.
So it's crazy to think that there's people out there who care what you do to your own body, you know?
Right.
So it's like, yeah, this cop is caring so much about some lady who was dying of cancer, who just didn't want to die horribly of cancer, but rather go out with like some glory.
Yeah.
And he's like taking offense to it and
Yeah.
wants to punish someone for it. So it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I that scene was my favorite. Some things that I did like about the movie, there were some nice shots, and like
Love the cinematography.
a lot of people commented on the use of color.
Oh, yeah.
Again, there was some
Color
good uses
pops.
of color, but I feel like that wasn't enough for me to like it. I'm a big sucker for cinematography, of course. Like, I like a very appealing shots. But it's just not enough. Like, I feel like I need a little bit more sustenance.
Yes.
You know, like,
yeah.
the thing is, like, the use of colors, like, it does pop.
Yes.
Like,
It's very nice.
Tilda
Everyone's
Swinton, like, has like these not eccentric clothing, but like a very green coat.
yes.
Or like a very blue jacket or something like that. Like,
Yes.
it's so like deep. Like, the colors are pretty rich.
Oh, totally.
Like,
very
the door
rich.
is like very red. It's like candy apple
Yeah,
red.
which there's definitely got to be some. I think there's a lot of significance in the color in the movie. I just
Yeah.
don't fully know
Yeah.
what that is. But
Now, the one thing that was labeled in the movie was this was a comedy, apparently.
yes, because all of his movies kind of have a comedic undertone.
I don't remember laughing.
Yeah, so I was thinking about too. Did I laugh? No.
The only part I laughed at was they're in a bookstore picking out books, and I think she picks out like a book about sex or something like
Oh, yeah.
that. Fucking horn dogs. in
There's a
this
lot of
movie.
sex in the, not sex, but a lot of discussions of
A
sex.
lot of discussion about sex. And so Julianne Moore picks up this book for Tilda Swinton because she said she likes it. And then they go up to the front to buy the books or whatever. I don't think this was planned. I feel like this was just like an
scene.
ad lib.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think this was in the script. Anyways, so Tilda Swinton walks up and she says to the cashier, she's like, I really like your hair. And it's like a dude with like long curly hair. And he's like, thanks.
I think he goes nice.
Or, nice.
Nice.
That's it.
And then it just cuts.
I was like, that I laughed at that because it was like so random.
Yeah.
And the other part I kind of laughed at was like Tilda Swinton's like sleeping on the bed, and it's like a very close up shot of her face, and then Julianne Moore is gonna go and like sleep beside her and like comfort her or whatever. and it's like the slowest, smoothest shot I've ever seen of Julianne Moore's face, like coming into the frame. It's like unnaturally smooth.
So she's laying behind Tilda Swinton, and then they kind of become like one face. Like Tilda Swinton has one eye, and then Julianne Moore has one eye. She's kind of like hovering slightly over her.
I feel like they like had Julianne Moore like on a crane and then just
lowered
like,
her down.
because it's like, I feel like no one can go into a bed that smooth.
No, it's very stylized. Yeah.
I'm like, that made me laugh because it's such a close-up face of close-up shot of Julianne Moore's face.
And it's crazy because that shot, there was a movie that came out last year called May December.
Yeah.
And was starring Julianne Moore. And there's a scene where Julianne Moore is at a mirror, and then behind her, who's the actress from like, she was in Leon the Professional.
Oh, Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman is in the movie, and she slowly comes up behind her in the exact same shot, but it's upright rather than tilted.
Okay.
It is like the same shot.
Okay.
But I did like that shot because the more I think about it, I think it's about Julianne Moore and Tilda Swinton are kind of, or at least Julianne Moore is like sponging ideas off of Tilda Swinton, or like slowly kind of becoming her, as in seeing her point of view more. So I think that's kind of like the symbolism there is like they're, before Julianne Moore kind of thought the idea of Tilda Swinton doing this, she wasn't against it, but she had reservations. Yeah. And then spending time with her, she kind of starts to warm up to the idea or see its purpose.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the cinematography. I thought the cinematography was pretty good.
There were some nice shots. I'll admit, like there was some, I was like, ooh, that's really cool looking. Like some of the angles and everything, but I don't know. It wasn't enough to like sway me.
Yeah.
Right.
This director, Pedro Almodovar, his favorite director is my favorite director, who's Douglas Sirk, who directed my favorite movie that I talked about, All That Heaven Allows.
Okay.
So I like his movies too, even though this is only the second one I've seen, because I can see Douglas Sirk like across the entire movie.
Okay.
Like there's a scene when they're in the hospital, Julianne Moore and Tilda Swinton, and Tilda Swinton's laying in bed, and then this is the confusing part of the movie. The season is so unknown. Sometimes it's warm and sunny, and they're laying down outside, and then it's snowing.
I feel like it might be like fall.
Yeah, it was. I was confused at that
because they're wearing like coats and stuff. Like
they are wearing
like
coats.
Late fall or something.
Yeah, and then Tilda Swinton's like, pink snow. I'm so glad I've lived to see this. And then there's a shot of them in like the window is very pink, and all this snow's coming down, and that is like a direct shot from All That Heaven Allows. But in All That Heaven Allows, it's very blue. This time it's very pink. But it's like so I like that too. I'm a little biased in that sense.
Yeah,
as it's like he likes making like this. I would say is like a melodrama movie in the style of Douglas Sirk. So it's like that's like I'll eat that shit up,
Yeah.
So yeah, like the set design, the cinematography, the music, the acting, the plot. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. So there's an actor, John Turturro, who's in it as well.
Yeah.
And he is like a climate activist who does lectures on climate change.
Yep.
And he seems to only be able to focus on how the world is dying. And he makes a political statement about how you have the far right on one side and the neoliberals on the other, and the world's going to shit. And he seems to be stuck on sex too. He seems to be mourning his sex life a lot.
Yeah.
Because he's older now, and he
was the best at it.
Apparently he was a great lover, because both Julianne Moore and Tilda Swinton had sex with him, or were in a relationship with him.
Yeah.
Which also at the same time in the movie, Julianne Moore is starting to write a book about a love triangle where a girl, this is a true story about authors, I can't remember their name, was in love with a gay guy. So she married the guy that the gay guy was obsessed with. So there's a love triangle going on between Tilda Swinton and Julianne Moore and this character. And also Julianne Moore's writing about it. So there's something going on there. Like it has meaning.
Yeah.
But so John Turturro's in it, and he's talks about sex a lot.
Yeah.
Every conversation he has, he seems to be mourning something.
Like he's holding on to that, like past life.
Yeah.
Right?
And he can't get over the fact that the planet's dying.
Yeah. I like to talk about that scene. So later on in the movie, what's his name? John Turturro?
Yeah. Who I normally don't like, but I liked him in this movie. I thought
he kind of has a conference up in the area where Julianne Moore and Tilda Swinton's characters are staying in the Airbnb.
Yeah, just like outside New York.
Somewhere, in the kind of in the country a little bit. And so he meets up with Julianne Moore. She lies that she's going to the gym, but she's actually going to go see him and talk to him. The whole part where they're having dinner or lunch or whatever, and talking about like Tilda Swinton's like decision and how it's like affecting Julianne Moore and whatever. And then he kind of goes into this spiel about like his conference that he just did, talking about climate change, and like about all these people that are protesting him and his views and all that stuff. And it felt so, like, at least to me, it felt so in your face of like, the world's dying and we're all gonna die. It's all helpless. And no one's doing anything to change this. It felt so in my face of like, this is just the political views of the director, in my opinion. Like, he didn't write it in a way of like, it's a little bit more poetic. Like, I feel like that's this type of movie. I feel like it needs to be a little more poetic in some of the subject matter. Because this just felt like he's just beating it in your head of like, everyone has to pay attention to climate change and let's all do something. Like, that's what it kind of felt like, and maybe that's the point. But I feel like for a movie, this isn't like that the time or place to do that.
See, I feel like it had a purpose, as in, because then Julianne Moore says, after he says that there's many ways to live inside a tragedy. So she currently is living with someone who's dying. So it may not be the planet that she's focusing on dying, but she is living with death around her. So it's like, you can either sit around and, I mean, you can't ignore the fact that something's dying, but you can still try to find enjoyment in there. So John Turturro has kind of given up on finding enjoyment, and he even has a thing where he brings up that he's not talking to his brother or his son anymore. His son, because his son had a third child, and John Turturro was mad that he's bringing kids into this shit world. And then Julianne Moore's like, how can you tell him that? Like, people can find joy in their own way. Like, you'd have no right to tell someone else that they can't bring in a kid because you think the world is shit. You know? So I feel like that's why they have him say those things, because it's like, only, there's different ways to live inside what they consider to be like a tragedy. You know? So he's on the other end where he's just kind of given up and is, he's at lunch with a woman who's living with a woman who's going to kill herself. And he can only talk about how the planet's dying and how he thinks the political system's shit. So I feel like that kind of like, that's why I didn't mind it. I feel like it kind of had a purpose of what you were saying.
I don't know, that like when that first happened, I was just like, man, I just feel like I'm trying to be persuaded. And like, that's fine. I think for me, I like to have a little bit more like subtle. Like, I think I want to think about it a little bit more rather than just like, here's what's happening. Right. But I can see like the side of things of like, that whole aspect of people are experiencing terrible things in different ways.
Exactly. And you can find joy within terrible things. And
I think he, like, I guess I get that he's like a little bit more of like a selfish character.
And
like,
cynical.
He's not, he doesn't focus on the needs of others. If he does, it's like in like a little bit more of a terrible way. Like, how can you bring another child? Like, I don't want to be a more of a grandpa or whatever, right? Like, it doesn't.
Which is a sentiment a lot of people have who don't have kids. They're like, how can someone bring up kids? The world's so shit. But it's like, when has the world not been shit? Or dangerous. Like,
there's always a war. There's always.
It might be shittier now, but man, if you had a kid 200 years ago, like no medications.
Still wasn't good. There's really like no good time, I guess.
No.
In the view of like the world and like its events, there's really no good time to have a kid. I guess depending on where you live and what's happening, right? Like,
So the idea that the world for some reason now is worse than it's ever been is crazy. But a lot of people feel that way and like don't want other people to kind of find joy in it, So I feel like the movie has a lot to say about that type of stuff. But then John Turturro also brings up, he seems to kind of want to have sex with Julianne Moore, even though he clearly hasn't had sex with her for like 20 years. He still keeps on kind of hinting at, like, remember the great sex we used to have? All those drugs and drinking alcohol, and fucking we used to do. But then she says you were the one that was doing drugs and drinking, which I thought was interesting. But over the course of that dinner, which is another favorite scene of mine, is Tilda Swinton is going to kill herself. Now, she told Julianne Moore she was going to do it at night, but this is during the day when she's home alone. And I think one of the best scenes in the movie is she's like going to kill herself and she's putting on like foundation. She's dressed in this super bright yellow suit with really bright red lipstick. And she's like standing in front of the window of the Airbnb and there's like this beautiful garden behind her. And I just really like that scene and the music and just like the glory of like making your own decision. You know, I feel like that's what it's really about. I think it's about a lot of things, but yeah, the power of choice, you know, and like, yeah, if you're going to die anyways. Like, I mean, in Canada, we have assisted suicide, and I've been there when someone was given that.
Yeah.
So I like that the movie shows that there's power in that choice, but it also doesn't shy away from the morbid fact that this is death, and
Yeah.
you know, Tilda Swinton's going to kill herself
Yeah.
with a suicide pill she bought online that she doesn't even know if it's going to work. I was a little like, how do you even know it's going to work?
Yeah.
It's like,
I think she even admits that too, or whatever,
does she?
right?
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when they first get to the Airbnb, it's like this beautiful kind of like modern Airbnb.
Yeah.
And then she realized she forgot the suicide pill.
She forgot it back in New York.
So they got to get in the car and drive back to New York with that good music going on when it shows the car driving.
Yeah.
At least I thought so. And then they come into the apartment, and I like that line too, because Tilda Swinton walks back into her apartment in New York, and then she's like, ooh, I thought I would never be back in this place again. And then that kind of hammers home. It's like, oh yeah, she's going to die, you know? Which I thought, this is where I thought there was some humor. They're like looking for the suicide pill.
Yeah.
And Julianne Moore finds it in Tilda Swinton's room because Tilda Swinton has forgotten where she put it because she has what she calls chemo brain. At least she can't remember anything. And on the envelope, it just says goodbye with the pill in it.
Yeah.
So it's like her goodbye pill. I
Yeah.
thought that was funny. And why did you write goodbye on the envelope?
Yeah.
Like, just the pill in there.
Those are some of the scenes too. Like when they go back, I was like, oh God, the character forgot it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So they have to go back.
Yeah.
I like some of the scenes when they're searching through it because it's very close-up shots of like
Love those
looking through
close-ups.
these sort of very like interesting but colorful like desks or drawers. You know, it's like even like her kitchen drawer is like very like eccentric and
Yes.
like different than what you'd see like most people's have is just like silver forks and knives or
Totally.
whatever, right? But now it's like there's so much like different sort of colors. So I like those shots where like they're pulling open these drawers and like searching through it, pulling up these envelopes or these books or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's all close up.
It's all close up. It's very kind of like what you'd comforting, I guess, in a way.
Oh, yeah.
Because it kind of like, it's kind of a weird analogy, but it looks like an I Spy book.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when
No,
they
I know
pull it
what you
open,
mean,
they're
yeah.
like, you're like looking for the letter, or you're looking for like a pill or like a little bottle or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, where is it? And then like they're pulling it open and like pulling stuff aside. So I guess it kind of makes it feel like, yeah, like it's home in a way.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. I do like the whole thing of like these set pieces that's like, I want to live in that apartment. You know what I mean? Like I want to have that view or like this corner of the room. Like I feel like I would be comfortable in with a chair or something. So
Totally.
I think
A place where a man could get some real thinking done.
yeah,
Nice place you got here, Kramer. Yeah. A man could really get some thinking done.
yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. So like the set design like in that part of the movie is really cool. Like the Airbnb is very like clean and modern.
The Airbnb has a really cool look. It's very
Yeah.
like sterile, but also kind of colorful
It's-
and warm.
It's like a mixture of like what the hospital and like her apartment would be, where it's like you get like the best of both worlds, where it's like everything is like kind of sharp edges and like very like symmetrical or
Yeah, very
something.
symmetrical. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff about symmetry in this movie. I feel like
Yeah.
theme-wise and the way it's shot.
Yeah.
But not so symmetry or like a Wes Anderson movie. Not
Yeah.
that in your
No,
face.
no.
But there is something about symmetry within this movie and copies.
Yeah.
Which I don't fully understand the symbolism of like the symmetry and the copies, because they mention copies a few times. Like there's a painting in the Airbnb. And then she's like, is this real? And then she's like, oh, I think it's a copy. So there's something about doubles or copies or I'm not fully aware of what the movie's saying there, but I like that I kind of have to think about it. I'm just not entirely sure that there's a lot about truth in fiction too, because like Julianne Moore is a writer, like an auto fiction writer, and then she kind of talks about having to make up stuff, and then when Tilda Swinton's telling the stories, when you see the flashbacks, there's a certain air of fiction to them.
Right.
Like, is this really what's happening? You know, so I think it's saying that like truth and fiction are intertwined forever
Yeah.
until death, and death is the only final truth type of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on with that too.
Yeah. To kind of talk about one thing too that kind of bothered me a little bit, because for such a like for a movie that's got like a pretty heavy subject matter in multiple ways, you know, like you got people that are on both ends of like death and life, right? And then you got someone who's hanging on to like a more grim fate for all, and then someone who's clinging on to like their youth and like the good old days, right?
Yes.
The one thing that kind of bothered me was the relationship between Tilda Swinton and Julianne Moore. It didn't feel like they were good like not like they weren't best friends, but it's like I didn't feel attached to any of them.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to maybe see. I thought maybe it should have had like 5-10 minutes of screen time of like it starts in the past. It's maybe starts with like Julianne Moore. It's like her last day at the magazine. I think they worked at a magazine.
They did. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah.
Maybe it's like her last day at the magazine, and she's explaining, yeah, I'm gonna pursue getting into writing my own book or whatever. Here's what the title is or something, and then you kind of get a little bit of a hint of like, okay, they're really good friends, or like, oh, let's go for a drink, right? And
yeah,
maybe that's like the last time that they see each other, right? And then fast forward to Julianne Moore signing her book, and then the girl's like, oh, like, what's her name? Martha.
I think Martha. Yeah, we didn't really the characters' names.
Martha and Ingrid. So
Martha and Ingrid. Yeah, good job.
Martha is Tilda Swinton, and then Ingrid is Julianne Moore.
Yes.
I feel like I wanted to have there should have been a little bit more hints at like why they were closer in the past, right? Just because then I would have felt a little more sympathetic towards like Tilda Swinton's character, going through what she's going through, right? But I didn't get that. I just felt like, so who is this lady to Julianne Moore? It just didn't feel like, I don't know, it didn't feel right.
Yeah, their connection is confusing, and the fact that Tilda Swinton is relaying information to Julianne Moore, that you're like, if you guys were friends, wouldn't you kind of already know this, maybe? But yeah. I think maybe these were secrets that she never told anyone, and now that she's close to death, she's now telling her about the husband or the guy who went off to the war and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, the friendship is a little confusing about.
Yeah. It starts out with her signing the book, and I was like, ooh, okay, this looks kind of cool.
Cool, like a bird's eye view shot of the table. It's very symmetrical.
Yeah. And like the outside of the store, and like it has a vibe to it. And I was like, ooh, okay, this like I can kind of get into this. It has that sort of cozy, warm vibe. And I think it does that throughout the whole movie. When they get into the Airbnb, it's a little bit cooler. Like it doesn't, it's like you said, a little more sterile. It's not like homey. But like I said, I just wanted to have a little bit more information as why they were such good friends in the past, right? And then like you don't have to spend the whole movie on it. I just need a little bit of something. Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't do it. I was always expecting a flashback with them, always.
Yeah, I think there should have been, whether it's at the beginning of the movie or like, maybe Julianne Moore is like recalling like a moment from their past. Then I can kind of get into a little bit more like maybe they're having fun or they're out for dinner or something. I need to see something that like tells me they're good friends, or else I don't believe it.
Yes.
Right. And that's a thing I had a hard time with, was like, I don't believe that they were good friends.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, how long, they don't really specify how long they haven't been friends for, but it seems like a long time.
I can't remember. I think she says, because the girl who tells Julianne Moore's character, oh, Martha's sick. Oh, I haven't seen her in, I can't remember. It's like 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, quite a while.
Like that.
Right?
It's a pretty long time.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, oh, I guess you can kind of understand. Yeah, you're not a part of that life anymore.
Now, I thought from the trailer, like when I first saw it, it didn't show anything about the plot at all. So I thought they were going to be lovers, Julianne Moore and Tilda Swinton. So I thought the whole time going in the movie, that's what I thought it was about. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised. I'm like, oh, they're just kind of friends. They didn't have any, they weren't,
They weren't lovers.
Because Tilda Swinton, maybe it's just herself, just the way she looks, but she kind of like gives off a lesbian vibe. Yeah. So I thought she was like a lesbian in the movie, and her and Julianne Moore were together, like ex-lovers coming together now. Yeah. But it's not. They were just kind of acquaintances. Yeah. So Tilda Swinton has kind of had to ask this person that she was friends with, but also not very close, to do this big thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, to talk about something that I don't know how you felt about this, but the thing that was laughably funny, I guess.
In a bad way. Like unintentional.
In a bad way. Okay. In a bad way.
What is it? I don't know.
It was Tilda Swinton's daughter.
Yes, so interesting choice here. So, Tilda Swinton, at the end of the movie, kills herself.
Yes.
So, that happens. Julianne Moore gets interviewed by the police. She has a lawyer because John Turturro hooked her up with a lawyer friend.
Yep.
The lawyer basically gets her off,
Yeah.
it's like really protected her. She goes back to the Airbnb and she's in her car and she looks in the rear view mirror, or what is this mirror over here called? Sticking out of your car. Whatever the fuck they're called.
Yeah.
So she looks in that mirror and you see Tilda Swinton coming up to the mirror, but she's dead with brown hair with this music playing.
Yeah.
She says a very clunky line. Hi, I'm Michelle.
Hello, I'm Michelle.
I'm Michelle. So Tilda Swinton is also playing her young daughter.
Oh God.
Now, I really like that choice. I really liked that. I thought it really worked. It added, like, when she walked into the mirror, it confused me. I was like, what am I seeing here?
Yeah.
So Tilda Swinton, yes, is playing her own daughter. And they didn't really de-age her that much or do anything to her.
No.
So she still looks kind of old.
Yeah. Slap a wig on Tilda Swinton and then that's her daughter.
Yeah, and you just spent the whole movie with Tilda Swinton. So you can't not see Tilda Swinton.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So in the movie, Julianne Moore alludes to the fact of like, oh, but your daughter is like a spitting image of you. She looks so much like you.
Oh, do they allude to that?
Yeah.
Oh,
she,
okay. I
She
didn't know
says
that.
something. I can't remember what the whole conversation is, but she's like, oh, but your daughter looks so much like you, or how can you guys not be close, or something like that. And then this happens, and I was like, they didn't even try.
Yeah.
I understand, your children can look a lot like you, but like there's still some differences there, like they're gonna have different shape to their face or whatever.
Yeah, she's the same
This
person.
is a spitting image. This, like, I just couldn't get around like, oh well, that's just Tilda Swinton, that's just Martha.
Yes. I know.
But
Yeah.
like, and Julianne Moore's like, oh my God, it's Martha. It's like you guys didn't even try. Like, you can find someone out there in the acting world that will bear some resemblances to Tilda Swinton.
Yes.
Like they can have the same sort of bone structure.
Yeah.
But it's like, don't just slap a wig on Tilda Swinton. Like,
a little brown wig.
yeah, they act the same. That's the
yeah,
thing, is,
she's
like,
maybe a little more like reserved.
Yeah.
But
like, I guess that's like the difference there is like Tilda Swinton's a little bit more like out there in a way.
yeah, I think so. A little more
And
eccentric.
like
Or
Michelle is so proper,
Michelle's a little proper.
right?
Yeah. And timid because she's like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to this house.
Yeah, she seems a little more like shut in, right? But come on, like I just
Which is so funny because it really worked for me. So,
oh man,
I think, again, it has to play with the idea of doubles. Again, there's something about
Like a
symmetry
copy- like a
and
copy.
copy. There's something about that for this movie. Again, I'm not quite sure I fully understand it.
yeah,
But I will say it threw me off. And then there's a weird line where she asks if she can stay at the Airbnb and sleep
Yeah.
in the same room that her mom was sleeping in.
yeah,
And Julianne Moore goes, yeah, of course, this is your mom's house. Go ahead. This is not your mom's house. This is a fucking Airbnb you rented. Why does she keep saying it's your mom's house?
yeah,
No. Like, this is an Airbnb.
yeah,
And then so she decides to stay the night. And then in the morning, Michelle, Tilda Swinton's daughter, wakes up, walks downstairs, goes out in the patio, and lounges in the same lounge chair that her mom was lounging in and that
Yeah.
she died in.
Yeah.
Julianne Moore lounges beside her, and the movie ends with the two of them lying beside each other.
yeah.
Yeah,
I couldn't get around it. It was
Yeah.
it was like, it took me right out of it, even more than what I already was, I guess. Just because it's like, come on, just find someone else that kind of looks a little bit more similar to Tilda Swinton than just getting Tilda Swinton. Like, I can't unsee it. I get the fact of like, your daughter looks so much like you, but like, come on.
Yeah. When it is you. Like, it
Yeah.
was Tilda Swinton. I agree that, yeah, I didn't really see Michelle. I saw the, what was her character's name? I saw
Martha.
Martha.
It just, yeah, like, it just felt like they didn't even try. That's my problem with it. But like, I don't know, that just bothered me
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah,
Like,
whereas I kind of liked it because, I don't know, it had a very, again, the movie doesn't feel realistic, and it had a sort of off vibe to it. Like, when am I seeing this right? Like, when she first walks up to the car mirror, I was like, what? What
Yeah.
the fuck?
Yeah.
What am I seeing here?
I read a review on Letterboxd, and someone mentioned that was like when Michelle comes on the screen, people were laughing in the theater.
Really?
And then he's like, and the person said like, I don't think it was a good kind of laughter either.
Yeah.
Right. It was just like, laughably funny.
Yeah, that it's like clearly just her.
It's just Tilda Swinton. So
I had heard someone say they DH'd her. Did they DH her? I don't think they DH'd her.
I think so.
Really?
It looked a little DH because I think when you see Tilda Swinton like for who she is, she's a little bit more like rough.
Yeah, wrinkly, rough.
A little bit
like
more
she looks like
wrinkly.
she's actually dying of cancer. I think that's why they
Yeah.
cast her, because she kind of looks a little sickly.
She's a pretty skinny. I think
Skinny.
she's a pretty skinny woman. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was an odd choice for sure. There's a few choices in this movie that are a little clunky,
Yeah.
and I fully agree that they either didn't really work or didn't work at all,
Yeah.
like the flashback sequences. You know, but I didn't mind the Tilda Swinton just because it had the sort of an uncanny vibe to it. Where I was like, ooh, this is interesting, and like it's clearly a choice. Now this is based off a book too, I guess, a short novel.
Okay.
And there is no daughter, I believe, or no daughter in the end. So this was a choice that the director deliberately made and decided to cast Tilda Swinton in, which is a choice.
Yeah.
It's a choice for sure.
I think they had a good thing going with Tilda Swinton and Julianne Moore. I think they're great actresses. Whoever casted the rest of the movie should be fired.
The flashbacks were brutal. I admit they
whoever
were
did
brutal.
that was like,
Yeah.
whoa, you got some thinking to do.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw my body moving. What time are we at? I was thinking that.
We're at an hour.
Okay, well, my body moving in the chair because when the flashbacks were happening, I was like, grabbed my hand, like, what the fuck is going on? This doesn't feel right at all. And then
Yeah.
I was really concerned at the whole movie. I think the movie is a little clunky, but I think once they show up at the Airbnb, it really takes hold. And I think that's when it really starts to come through.
Yeah.
There's just some clunkiness at the beginning and a little bit of time to get used to the way they're speaking. Because
Yeah.
when she first visits Tilda Swinton in the hospital, yeah, the dialogue feels strange.
Right.
Feels very strange. Yeah. There's lots of references in this movie I liked. I wrote some of them down, and then I watched the one. So there's lots of references in this to movies or books. So there's a heavy reference to a James Joyce short novel called The Dead, which has a lot to play in this. And specifically the film The Dead that they watch. And also I know that was directed by John Huston, and he directed it while he was dying, literally like dying in a wheelchair directing this movie.
Wow.
So there's something about death, a lot about nostalgia, but I watched the movie last night, The Dead, and I was like, oh, I can see the connections. Totally. Like, there's a quote at the end of the movie. What was it? So I thought I wrote it down. The end of the quote of the movie is, it says, "One by one, they were all becoming shades, better pass boldly into that other world in the full glory of some passion, than fade and wither dismally with age." So it's like, Tilda Swinton choosing a bold choice to die with, some dignity, rather than succumbing to and withering away.
Yeah.
So I like the reference to that movie. And then they reference some Max Ophuls movie called Late Letters from an Unknown Woman, which I've never seen. There's some connection there. And we specifically show the DVD coming out of the DVD player into the case and it closing. So there's definitely a big significance to those movies. I just am not sure the full connection,
Right.
But they quote James Joyce throughout the movie like 5 times, which is the quote of the snow is falling faintly through the universe and faintly falling on all the living and the dead, which is interesting, that quote. I feel like it's like the snow represents like either memories or experience and how quickly it comes and goes,
Yeah.
and how it covers all, like everyone has memories and life and love and all this stuff, but it also quickly fades as quickly as a snowflake,
Right.
So very bookish movie. There's 2 ways to go about this movie. You could either cast Meryl Streep and Whoopi Goldberg, and they're sitting in knitted hats, knitting at the table, talking about how one of them's going to kill themselves. Okay. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, oh. So you could either have that movie, or there's this movie that kind of exists above the material.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying. Like, it's not like Meryl Streep going,
Yeah.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah.
This is like, it exists above the material. It's very mysterious.
Yeah.
It's not very straightforward. Tilda Swinton's character is weird because I sympathize with her, but I think she has a bit of a mean streak because she tells Julianne Moore that if my door is closed, you'll know I'm dead.
Yeah.
So Julianne Moore wakes up one morning and the door is closed, and she has a fucking freak out, panic attack.
Yeah.
She goes and Tilda Swinton put some pills in a drawer, and she said, "When you see my door closed, take these pills and they'll calm you down."
Yeah.
So she takes these pills, goes out in the patio and is breaking down in a chair. And then Tilda Swinton comes walking down the staircase and like looks through
like,
the
"Oh,
window.
what's wrong?"
But she like smiles at her first, knowing she's crying and freaking out.
Yeah.
Slowly walks out. And then Julie Moore's like, "What happened? You said if the door is open, you would die." And then she's like, "Oh, a breeze blew in the night and shut it."
Must have closed it. Yeah.
I don't buy it. I
Yeah.
think there's something there. Like she did it on purpose.
I think she was doing it to prepare her.
She does say that. She's like, "Well, now you know how to react." But
Yeah.
the fact that she like waits and watches her breaking down in a chair, it's like there's something a little mean there.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like I think the director wants you to sympathize with Tilda Swinton. But I still thought that was an interesting choice because it felt kind of mean.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
Well,
kind of playing with her emotions.
I think you kind of get that like Tilda Swinton isn't really there for a lot of people.
Mhm.
Like she's not there for her daughter.
Yeah, she's not there for her daughter.
She wasn't there for like her boyfriend or whatever. Like
Yeah, or she like
he kind of decides to like leave anyways.
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
she just supports it, I guess.
yeah, she kind of
I guess
supports
that's
it.
like when her one moment of being there for someone
Yes.
is like, I support you and I'm not gonna hold you back kind of thing.
Yeah,
you
totally.
You do your own thing. So maybe that's just like, I guess like her mannerisms is she's not selfish, but she just doesn't really think about the actions.
Yeah, or maybe she liked to know that someone was going to care this much. You know,
Yeah.
like maybe she was like, "It's good to know that someone will be
will be crying
upset
for me.
when I die."
Because even
Yeah.
her daughter is like so like okay with it. She's like she's like, oh, I guess I'll sleep where she slept, or
Yeah.
like she's like no emotion whatsoever.
Yes, yeah. And that's the thing too, like the whole fact that the daughter hasn't been talking to her mom because of the boyfriend thing and not knowing who her dad was. I think that's like a bit of, again, the fact and the fiction. I think Tilda Swinton, because she tells Julianne Moore that's why the daughter doesn't talk to her anymore, because she hid the fact about her dad. But it's like, maybe you also weren't home and you were a shitty mom.
Yeah.
And you were always in Baghdad. You know? So it's like,
Yeah.
again, the fact and fiction, what people choose to tell you and what they don't.
You're always having sex with John
Yeah, you're busy having sex with Turturro, John Turturro. Yeah, lots of
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, so I think we can go into our rating. Again,
Sure.
I could talk about all the things I love. Again, just the main thing was the music, the vibe, the colors, the cinematography, all of it.
Yeah.
Jordan, what is your rating,
Out
big
of
boy?
5, I'm gonna stick with a 1.
Oh shit, 1 star.
1 star.
All right.
Made me sleepy.
Okay.
I slept really good when I got home.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, you know what I mean? At least it serves
Yeah.
some purpose.
Yeah. Now, like that's not to say like there's things I didn't like. There's things I liked about the movie we already discussed. Cinematography, like there were some nice shots, the uses of color, the whole like vibe of feeling like home or like cozy and like comfortable. Like I think it did a good job at that. So like I like those aspects of it. Like it just kind of it made you feel like kind of good in a way. But there was a lot of things I didn't really get around. I kind of like the idea of like the story. Like I
too.
like the idea of like the subject matter. You know,
Same.
like someone's going through this rough time and like they always want someone to be there for them. And then when you finally find that one person, you kind of hold on to that. I like the aspect of that. I just don't think it was done in a way that I guess would have resonated with me a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, I would have liked, it doesn't always have to all be like in this poetic sort of like, you know, trying to allude in a way like, you know, it's very like in your face. But
Yeah.
I like to have a little bit more of like, you know, this character's thinking about this and it's like in a way that's not in your face, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I would like to have a little bit more of that, like these sort of like original quotes.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I want to see some original writing.
Yeah, because a lot of the meaningful quotes are references from something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I understand like you kind of live by a quote. Like you find a quote and you're like, wow, that really speaks to me.
Yeah.
But I think the job of this movie would have been to, you know, if anyone else is going through this, same sort of thing, you know, making it an original experience for them. Like have your own meaningful quote that someone else can live by.
Yeah.
And not just by like an older movie or an older book or whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I'll
Like I like there's many ways to live inside a tragedy. I think that's a pretty good quote. I don't know if it's from anything else, but
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty good. But
yeah.
yeah. So 1 star?
I'll give it 1.2.
1.2. Oh, it went up.
It'll go up because of that.
Okay.
I guess. So.
Yeah. There's so much stuff that attracts me to it. It's like in no sense of any way am I intellectual at all. So I like movies that are about like kind of like academics. There's something like I'm attracted to characters who care about this high art. Like they're always watching these artsy movies and like they go to a movie early in the movie and it's like some Roberto Bossi or whatever his name is. I think it's like Journey to Italy or something. They go to see that movie and it's like, I like these characters who are like into this high art stuff, you know, like they love James Joyce and they love reading and quoting it, mainly because that is not who I am, and I'm kind of jealous, you know? So I like that aspect, but I would give it a 4.5 out of 5. I would say it's my second favorite movie of the year. If I didn't see Memoir of a Snail, it would be my first. It's tied with Memoir of the Snail. I'm so torn. Ooh. I don't know. This is a movie that I've still been thinking about since I last saw it. And I listened to the soundtrack when the soundtrack's so good and mysterious. I'm like walking to Walmart and I'm like, this is a mysterious outing to Walmart. You know, I just love that soundtrack.
Like kind of to go off with Memoir of a Snail, because Memoir of a Snail kind of deals with similar things.
Yeah,
like,
a lot of death and
a lot of death and grim stuff. But I think it was done in a way it's very charming, and it's like,
and it's more at the front.
It's and it's kind of about like, this character's going through a lot of shit, but it's showing like how they deal with it. So it's a very same sort of subject matter, but it's a different resolution.
Yes,
in the way, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's like, I think I just like the mystery of this movie, as in I didn't fully understand everything I was being told, but I feel like it's significant in some way. Like at the book signing, she's signing the book for some girl, and the girl is obviously like a lesbian and has a lesbian partner, and she's like, me and my girlfriend love you. We really respect you, and can you sign my girlfriend's name? And then also say, it won't happen again. Yeah. And then she's like, I'm sure it won't happen again. I'm not quite sure what all that is. There's something there.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't fully understand the purpose of it, but I like thinking about it and going, what exactly
what happened
was the reason for that? Like, not what happened between her and her girlfriend, but it's like, why is the movie showing me this moment?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of moments like that where it's like, why am I being told this?
Yeah.
And I like to think about that. And then there's some stuff I fully understood, just like the idea of the cop and like, other people thinking they should have any right over your own body is kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that's kind of the forefront message of the movie. But again, it's not like in your face. It's very loopy and I don't know. It's a little like, I don't know. I liked it. A little mysterious, you know? Listen to the soundtrack. It's so good. It wasn't nominated for best fucking score, which is nuts.
I will have to listen. I wasn't even paying attention to the music.
Really? Oh, that was driving the movie for me. The music really got me into it. So
I'll have to check it out. Like, cause I wasn't really like listening to it. I was like,
damn. Oh man,
just
the
like
score
so
like
spaced out.
Really, even from the fucking opening of the movie, it's that opening score.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I like the sound of this, you know?
Yeah.
I know the guy who did the score. I had his name written down and I'm not going to reach down and figure it out, which is terrible. But I should, because to show the guy the respect. But he's done like the score for all Pedro Almodovar's movies.
Okay.
So it's his like go-to guy, you know? The guy who shot the movie shot some garbage. The fucking new Beverly Hills movie with fucking Eddie Murphy. I don't know, Beverly Hills Cop. I don't know.
Okay,
I'm just surprised because the cinematography was so good in this and so like on point. And then I looked at his other shit and I'm like, he hasn't really directed anything on this level.
Right.
It's all kind of like schlocky nonsense. So good job for the cinematographer too. I thought it was all good.
Yeah.
So 4.5.
Okay.
This is good though. This is the first one we really disagreed on.
Yeah.
So which is good. I think that's the whole point.
Opposites,
Yeah, it's the whole point on going to the movies. You know, it's like if we had the same opinion every time, Christ.
It's like,
that's boring.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one, we're really on the complete opposite end of the scale. So
yeah, I read your review, like I seen the stars, and I was like, oh my god, he gave it a 4.5. I was like, what the fuck?
I think it's an exceptional movie. I would say
fine. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
People are gonna feel different about every type of movie. Like I'm gonna hate superhero movies, and people are gonna
totally
love them. Right?
Yeah.
And that's fine. You love what you love, right? So,
yeah. I feel like this was just my kind of movie. I like melodrama, and I like Douglas Sirk, and again, same with Ari Aster, one of his favorite directors is Douglas Sirk. So I like their movies because I'm like, where am I going to get some of that Douglas Sirk in here, you know? So it's definitely my kind of movie. So I'm glad we disagreed. Also, we went to see it in VIP at Cineplex.
Oh, yeah.
And we're getting on here, but that was $25 ticket.
Yeah.
Such bullshit.
$50 for 2 tickets.
For a movie you would despise, that you almost fell asleep to.
Yeah. I think if you're gonna go in VIP, you should get a little bit of something. Like, oh, I'm spending $20. Like, I'll get like
a gin and tonic.
I mean, that'd be really nice.
A Diet Coke.
Something. You should just get something out of it. Like, here's a complimentary, I don't know, small popcorn or something.
Yeah.
you're spending that much money. You're telling me I can't get like maybe even just smaller than a small popcorn, like a very personal size, like here, like what you'd get like at the dollar store.
I know.
Like just a tiny little bag. Like here's a complimentary popcorn on us.
And it's unfair when they're only showing a movie, which is this one, for every night. They're only showing it in VIP.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, come on.
First off, no one's going to see this movie. It was us and one other person.
Literally
on an
one other
evening
lady.
show.
I thought when we bought the tickets, there was like maybe a couple other seats
There was.
taken,
No one
but it was like they just
came, though.
They were like, fuck it.
Maybe they read the reviews.
Yeah,
This
maybe.
movie hasn't gotten great reviews online. It's like a lot of people seem to be on your side.
Yeah.
I feel like people either loved it. I mean, also are lukewarm, but I think it has like a 3.2 or something on Letterboxd.
It's mid for some people, I guess.
Yeah, but VIP, it's like $25. It should be less money because like when I went to see The Holdovers, it was in VIP and it was packed, and I was sitting around people eating full dinners. It's like I should be paying top dollar to sit beside a guy over here eating a tray of tacos with waiters walking up and down the aisles.
Yeah.
That should be the cheapest ticket ever.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
I don't buy any drinks. I'm not buying a lasagna. So it's like the fact that it's more money to sit beside a dude eating dinner.
So first of all, it's $20 a ticket, and then if you wanted, say, a burger or something, it's another $20.
Yeah.
That's the most expensive night to go see a movie.
To see a movie.
Yeah.
And they're showing movies that, why would they show this movie?
Yeah.
Show a movie that's going to pack that audience so you can make money on your burgers.
Yeah.
No one's going to see The Room Next Door, sadly. So it's like,
Yeah.
the frig.
I guess because it's such an acquired taste that's like you're going to see a movie about like all this fancy stuff, fancy lingo and whatever. I want a fancy drink and a fancy meal.
Triple patty burger with like a, yeah. I don't know. It's,
VIP is
the seats are worse.
Yeah, they're not the best. I mean, like what you get like an extra head.
That thing's
Movement
so
thing.
fucked up. None of the settings for that
You get
head
a table.
piece.
You get a table.
I keep mine away from me the whole time anyways.
Yeah.
The table's only useful if you're like eating a full meal.
Yeah.
Which again, I don't know if that works. I don't know if it works, man.
It's like I said, if VIP is included, or if you go VIP, you should get something included in your meal to make it a little bit more worthwhile. Like, okay, I'm going to see a movie, but like, okay, the seats aren't that much better, and like it's fucking expensive.
Yeah,
What do
totally.
I get? Waiter service, but like,
Yeah, I don't care.
like, there's nothing happening.
I mean, going to the movies for like 30 years, I'm okay with walking my own popcorn up.
Yeah, literally.
Like, it's like, oh, God. And the fact that I didn't know much about this movie, sometimes I'll pay for VIP and I don't even care because I really want to see the movie.
Yeah.
This one I wanted to see, but I didn't have a real connection to it.
Yeah.
So then when I saw the $25 pop up, I was like, oof,
Yeah, that's rough.
that's pretty rough.
Yeah.
$25?
Yeah. There's got
Bullshit.
to give me something else.
I'm
here.
only going to go to VIP on cheap night because I think it goes down to 14, so that's more reasonable.
Yeah.
But yeah, $25 should come with something.
Yeah.
Like enter a raffle. You know, or I don't know, fucking like if you have a scene points card, which I don't, which I should get, you should get like more points, and maybe you do.
I mean, maybe you do.
Yeah, because it's like, I don't know, $25 is bullshit.
Yeah.
For VIP, when
That's unacceptable.
the incentive used to be, oh, you can have like a gin and tonic, but now you can bring in beer to any of the regular theaters.
Yeah.
So it's like that used to be the incentive. Oh, you can have a drink.
You can have an alcoholic drink.
But now you can anyways.
Yeah.
So
I guess like VIP is probably kids free because of that
It
fact.
is.
So it's like,
and that's that's true.
but what kid is going to go and see this movie anyways?
And then
So-
maybe that's why they put it in there, because it's not
Maybe.
like a no.
You're not going to get teenagers going in
Yeah,
there. or
none of the
whatever.
teenage audience is gonna get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not get it. They're not gonna go see.
They're not
it.
going to go see it.
Yeah. So I don't know. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. Well, that was The Room Next Door.
Yeah, so
Sorry,
watch
that was
it.
The Room.
fuck you. I couldn't believe it. People are calling it The Room. I was like, okay, it's not that bad.
It's a sequel to The Room.
Yeah, they're like the dialogue was literally The Room level. I've heard multiple
I
people
wouldn't say it
that.
was The Room level. I
No.
think the delivery was above The Room level. It was a little janky.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say the dialogue. It wasn't like, what is it? I fed up with this world.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah,
keep your stupid comments in your pocket. It wasn't that level.
No.
It was just, my opinion, it was a little janky.
It was a little janky, a little bookish, and like very
Yeah.
written. Like
Yeah.
you can tell this isn't like maybe
wasn't
how
a
real people would
performance.
speak.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Which I really warmed up to, but yeah. But yeah, so watch it and then let us know whose side you're on.
Yeah. Team Jordan or Team Krez? No, it's a 1.
I would love, definitely whoever's listening, go watch it because
Yeah.
I would love to know thoughts. But yeah,
And buy our mugs for $65.
yeah, exactly. Signed by one of us.
Yeah. These will be auctioned off, actually. You can get our we aren't going to wash them.
Yeah, we won't wash them. We
Yeah.
have big old rings in the bottom and stuff. Yeah. It's pretty sick though.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It's nice to have.
It is nice to have.
Yeah. All right.
I will say I chugged that coffee back in 2 seconds, but
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, cool.
Well, yeah, that was The Room Next Door.
Hell yeah.
Go watch it. Let us know what you think.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, catch us on the next one,
Yeah.
which I think we're going to be doing should we say?
Yeah, totally.
We're going to watch we're not going to watch, we're going to review Better Man. So if you haven't seen that, now is your chance to watch that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can kind of follow along for the next one, because that'll be, I like that movie.
That'll
we'll
be
get
one
into-
that
yeah,
I feel like I have lots to say about it too.
Yeah,
So yeah.
for sure.
Nice. All right.
All right. Well, thanks for watching and listening,
Yeah.
and catch us on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.